Well, hello, and welcome to the Internal Mobility Podcast, where we explore all of the ways for you to reach your potential here at Randstad, while also making this giant company a little easier to understand. Today, our guest is Katie Birkelo. Katie runs a really large group out in the West for RGS, and I've asked her to be here today because she gets a whole lot right with regards to internal mobility. And I'm hopeful that she'll share some of those best practices from a field leadership perspective with all of us. So Katie, how many internal mobility stories would you suspect you facilitated here at Randstad?
Chris, I counted them this morning, and there are 34 in total across 7 opcos.
What? 34 and 7 opcos. All right, no surprise that when people think of strong people leadership, your name comes up over and over again. I got to think that if you even got to a third of that, if you could facilitate 10 amazing experiences with our talented people moving around the organization, you'd probably be Randstad famous. And you're sitting at 34 career stories that you've helped facilitate along the way, keeping good people growing here and sharing what they know across one operating company to another. In most of those cases, that's beautiful. But not everybody is doing that. I'll just be honest with you. We've still got some hoarding. They're like, wait, this person's so important to my business, I don't want to turn them loose. Tell me, Katie, what's your vision for Randstad and internal mobility specifically that creates those habits in the groups that you lead?
The first, Chris, and I'll say this because I came from a competitor, is that I don't want to hoard professionals and lose them and have to compete with them. So the greater vision is, how do we keep people in a career path that keeps them here at Randstad, keeps their institutional knowledge selfishly, so that we don't have to compete against them, because our best people are the ones that I don't want to train for our competitors.
Beautiful. And very long-term thinking too. Not about today, it's about the brand long-term. Excellent. All right, so we've still got some friction points in the system where not everybody's thinking 5, 10 further in the future. They're thinking about right now, their teams, what they've got in front of them. And a couple of things are going on. One, we've got some managers that are interviewing internal mobility candidates without talking to their current boss to help facilitate that transition, identify the skills that they currently have and how they might map over. It's hard for me to understand how you would make that decision without tapping the person that this employee currently works for. Like, what would you say to those managers that are taking on new talent in their organization without connecting to the current manager for that employee?
Yeah, I think there's a lot that I would say, Chris, but ultimately the importance of understanding how somebody can be successful fastest within your own org chart is why I would want them to connect with me or with their peer leader, so that we can set that new internal up, that professional up, to grow as fast as possible for my own organization. Beyond that, though, having that conversation eliminates any challenge for that internal professional. And what I mean by that is that person does not want to be torn between 2 leaders in the same organization. The more fluid we as leaders can make it for the professionals that we're moving to and from opcos, the better their overall experience is. And it makes them feel better about the team that they're exiting and the team that they're joining.
Yeah, and it makes perfect sense. And really, if we make it all about our people and their experiences as part of putting you forward, all of the right benefits of acting the right way will develop, right?
Absolutely. And they'll feel great about who they go to. Can you imagine not having made the decision to tell your leader that you are interested in another role, and then having that leader put you in that incumbent leader or the new leader put you in a position where you don't feel good any longer? How do you overcome that? And that retention becomes super critical for both parties, because the last thing I would want is to move a professional onto another opco and have them only stay 60, 90 days because we didn't do a great job vetting out whether or not they were good for my team.
That, not to mention all the missed opportunity. Like if you think about all clients, all Randstad, which is kind of our superpower as a very, very large organization, right? You really limit your potential whenever you're not continuously building those internal relationships. Like you miss out on opportunities and you miss out on giving opportunities that really, back to your original point, make us a better, stronger Randstad forever.
100% agree.
So that's the other friction point you tripped on for just a second, or I heard for just a second. And it's this idea of employees that see something, they want something different. They sense that there's some opportunity to progress their career, but they're afraid to sit down and have that conversation with their current manager. What do you want those folks to know?
I think that this is ultimately the challenge of an unknown expectation or an unknown outcome. If I'm going to talk to my leader about leaving, I'm uncertain about the outcome. And so I'm afraid of that discussion. When the reality should be the outcome is one of two things. My leader will facilitate a conversation with their peer or somebody within the OPCO that I'm interested in, or my leader will understand what I'm most interested in. And if I'm not ready for that, they will, as a responsibility of being my leader, help grow me into a role that I'm ready for. So the certain outcome should be my leader knows what I want and helps coach me through it, or my leader knows what I want and helps facilitate me to the right direction.
It's interesting too. I know you and I have talked about like the guaranteed outcome before, and I really think not taking that risk keeps people from growing as quickly as they could, right? Could you imagine if you only took the next step, if you were 100% assured of how that step would develop? Your life would be very, very small. Your career would be very, very small forever because you didn't do the next brave thing and figure out, hey, like honestly, in that scenario, right, there's not a bad result in either of those cases, but you don't know going in.
And you miss out on the allies that you create in the organization, right? Like if I could say, Chris, I've got Joe, he's interested in internal talent. Can you talk to him and just tell him about a day in the life? At the end of the day, all that you're going to get is somebody who knows a little bit more about your organization, and he's going to have built an ally in you that I promise in a year, if he were in a leadership role or a different role, he could call you and say, hey, Chris, I'm in a pickle. Like I need help here. So that internal ally creation is also critical to overall career growth.
100%. So Katie, what's your favorite human forward moment in the last couple of weeks?
Oh man, I think we have so many. But I've been lucky enough over the course of the past 3 months to inherit some groups as we've segmented OP from M&L. And I would suggest that my favorite human forward story is no longer part of my organizational chart, but it's somebody who, was brave enough to say that she was interested in a different role. And funny enough, I told her for 6 weeks, talk to your leader, talk to your leader, talk to your leader. And finally, she spoke with her leader. And I'm going to give it away. And she doesn't know this story, but she is currently the leader for President's Club for AVPs in the Pacific Northwest. Everybody can look her up. And I'm so excited for her growth and her career success and all of the things that she has ahead of her. I'm not going to say her name, but you all will be able to find her. She's no longer with my group, but she is just going to be a shining star for our company. So that's probably my favorite that's recent.
I'm not surprised that that's the story you pick. It's quintessential Katie Birkelo because it's never about you. It's about your people. It's about the company. And clearly that facilitates your success here at Randstad. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your heart and intention towards internal mobility. I hope all of us, everybody internally behaves the way that Katie B does, because you really can point and say, yeah, that's level 5 leadership. particularly with regards to caring for our most viable internal resource, our people. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Chris.